All right, friends, so you know how this camp's been going. 2 weeks of padded practice, and honestly, this offensive line was starting to look like one of the better stories out of Latrobe. And right in the middle of that, one of our first-round picks goes down at practice today, and it's not looking like nothing. I'm going to break down exactly what happened, what it looked like, and who's already stepping in to take those reps in the meantime. But that's not the only injury I got for you either. There's another starter who left practice hurt too, and I'll get into that as well. So stick with me because I've got a lot more to break down with you today. Hello, Steelers fans. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Okay, so let's get right into it because I know that's what you clicked on this video for. Max Iheanachor, our first-round pick out of Arizona State, left practice today with what looked like a shoulder issue. And honestly, guys, that's not the news you want to see out of a padded practice this early. I don't have anything official on how serious it is. Nobody's put a real diagnosis out there yet, so I'm not going to sit here and act like I know something I don't. But I will say this, the way he came off that field, it wasn't just a shake it off and jog back in type of thing. And look, I get that these things happen in camp. This is literally why you have padded practices, to find out who can hold up. But when it's a guy you just used one of your top picks on, a guy who was building real momentum through the first 2 weeks, it stings a little different. I'm hoping, and I mean genuinely hoping, that this is one of those deals where it's just a stinger, something that lingers for a day or two and he's back out there by the weekend. Because from what I've seen out of him so far in camp, he's been holding his own. He's been competitive in one-on-ones, and that's exactly the type of thing you want to see out of a rookie tackle trying to win a job in this league. Now here's the thing though, when a guy like that steps off the field, it opens the door for somebody else, and that somebody today was Dylan Cook. I'll get more into his day in a bit because it deserves its own breakdown, but I just want you to remember that name right now because these two situations are tied together. If Max Iheanachor ends up missing any real time here, Dylan Cook is the guy who's going to be asked to hold the fort, and from what I saw today, I don't think that's the worst outcome in the world for this offensive line. But look, the injuries didn't stop there today, and this next one's on the other side of the ball. Brandin Echols, who right now is basically running as the starting nickel corner while Jalen Ramsey deals with his own knee situation, he also left practice today with an ankle injury. And I mean, come on, guys. That's two guys who could genuinely be real contributors for this defense this year, both banged up on the same day. That's not a coincidence I love seeing, but that's just how camp goes sometimes, especially once the pads come on and the physicality ramps up. I'll be honest with you, an ankle tweak in camp can mean absolutely nothing, or it can linger into the season. There's really no way of knowing right now. So like I said with Max Iheanachor, I'm not going to speculate wildly on this one either. I'm just going to keep you updated as we actually find out more throughout the week. And speaking of guys who weren't even out there today, I also want to mention that Logan Lee, the defensive tackle, and Eli Heidenreich both sat out of practice as well. Now, those injuries haven't been announced publicly, so I can't tell you exactly what's going on with either of them, but I will say, for Eli Heidenreich specifically, missing time right now is really not the news he needed. This is a guy trying to carve out a role, trying to show the coaching staff something in these preseason reps, and every practice he's not out there is a practice he's not making his case. If I'm being honest with you, I already had a feeling Eli Heidenreich was trending toward more of a practice squad type of outcome, a guy the organization probably wants to keep around because of that versatile background coming out of Navy, but this kind of absence certainly doesn't help him push for an actual roster spot. Now, let me shift over to something a little more positive, because it hasn't been all injury news out there in Latrobe. Drew Allar has genuinely been impressing people through these first 2 weeks, and I mean that. The rookie out of Penn State has been showing real growth, and even the head coach came out and talked about it, saying that he's doing exactly what you want from a young quarterback, that there hasn't really been a day where Drew Allar hasn't made a throw that shows you he's taken a step forward. And look, I don't want to get carried away here. This kid is not walking into a game and starting for this team this year, and honestly, we should hope he never has to. He's still very much in that development phase, still working on his footwork, his mechanics, his processing under pressure, but the flashes have been real. He's made some pretty impressive throws under duress, and from what I've been hearing, he's rarely getting sacked, which tells me he's actually understanding the offense and getting the ball out on time. That's a really encouraging sign for a rookie quarterback this early in camp, and it's exactly the kind of progress you want to see building toward the regular season, even if he's nowhere near ready to see the field yet. Now, staying on the topic of guys who might be asked to do something a little different than usual, Asante Samuel Jr. was mentioned today as somebody who has the flexibility to line up both outside and in the slot. And honestly, that one caught my attention a bit, because Asante Samuel Jr. has really been an outside corner for pretty much his whole career at this point. He's a smaller, shiftier type of player, so I don't think it's some wild stretch to think he could handle slot reps in a pinch. And when you connect this back to what we just talked about with Brandin Echols, if that ankle injury ends up being anything more than minor, having Asante Samuel Jr. as an option who can slide inside gives this coaching staff a little more flexibility, especially in those dime packages where Jalen Ramsey would be sliding down into more of a moneybacker role. Now, let me pivot over to the offense as a whole for a second, because it's still very much a work in progress right now. There's been some false starts, some miscommunication, some moments where things just aren't fully buttoned up yet. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as what we've seen from this team in years past, and honestly, a lot of what I'm seeing schematically has me pretty encouraged, but operationally, there's still some kinks being worked out, and that showed up again today during a 2-minute drill that really didn't go well at all. Now, to be fair, that was with the third-team offense running it, not the starters, so I don't want anybody panicking over that specific rep. But when I look at the first-team offense, it's a totally different story, especially with Aaron Rodgers out there pushing the ball down the field. Roman Wilson has continued to stay hot, and he actually hauled in another deep touchdown catch today. I know there was a bit of a penalty on the play, but just seeing that connection between Aaron Rodgers and Roman Wilson continue to develop, that's a real positive sign for this offense heading into the season. I genuinely think Roman Wilson is shaping up to be a legitimate downfield threat this year, and that's exactly the kind of thing this passing attack has been missing. Now, on the flip side of that, it was another quiet day for Michael Pittman Jr., and if I'm honest, one of his more quiet days at that. And look, you're paying a guy like that real money, so it's a little frustrating watching him not get more involved right now. But I'm not about to hit the panic button here. We're only 2 weeks into camp, and building real chemistry with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers just takes time. Right now, if I had to lay out the pecking order the way it's looking on the field, it's DK Metcalf, then Roman Wilson, and then Michael Pittman Jr., who at this point is even behind a couple of the tight ends in terms of targets. I do expect that to even out as we get closer to the season, but it's definitely something worth watching these next couple weeks.
Now back to that offensive line situation, because like I mentioned earlier, Dylan Cook really stepped up today with Max Iheanachor out, and I gotta say, I'm completely fine with Dylan Cook starting at right tackle in week 1 if it comes to that. He's got real experience around this league, he played well in a small sample size last year, and today he was holding his own in both one-on-ones and team periods. That's exactly the type of steady presence you want up front if your first-round guy needs any time to recover. Now, let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball, because there's been some really encouraging stuff happening up front. Derek Harmon has been an absolute problem in these run periods since the pads went on, and I mean that in the best way possible. Last year, he was already a solid run defender, but this year, he looks like he's taking a real jump, getting into the backfield, creating tackles for loss, holding up against double teams. If this defense wants to run more of that too-high safety look, they need guys like Derek Harmon anchoring that front, and right now, he's doing exactly that. And right there alongside him is Yahya Black, who's actually been listed as the starting nose tackle on the first unofficial depth chart. This guy has been a wall in there, and with his size and length, if he keeps playing with the right pad level, he could be a real problem for opposing offenses in those short yardage and goal line situations. Moving to the second level, Patrick Queen has looked really comfortable as a run defender through camp, and that's exactly what a lot of us were hoping to see once he got out from under some of those tougher schematic spots from years past. He's been making plays, sniffing out runs before they even develop, and that kind of instinctive play is a great sign for where his game is heading. And finally, I gotta bring up Jaquan Brisker, who was the standout in the secondary today. Multiple pass breakups, playing the ball extremely well, affecting things all over the field. Now, he hasn't come down with an actual interception yet, so that's something worth tracking as camp rolls on. But the way he's reading the ball and closing on receivers has me feeling really good about his fit in this defense, especially with him being on a 1-year deal and having every reason to prove himself right now. So look, that's everything I've got for you out of Latrobe today. A lot of moving pieces, some concerning injuries, but also a lot of really encouraging development across both sides of the ball. I'll keep tracking all of this closely and bring you the updates as soon as we get them.